No nonsense.
Hey, so welcome to another edition of NonSense Psychiatry. In the first episode, I gave you just an overview of what the site was going to be about, and I'm hoping that after you've listened to that, you kind of feel like there's a journey that you're going to be going on, and you're going to pick up some tips and hints and along the way as well. So all of this sort of sounds positive, I feel, and I guess, being that it's not traditional psychiatric advice, it's more practical psychiatric advice, it's something that's going to empower you at the end of the day. And it's, as I say, it's going to eventually give you those tools and the advice that you need to sort of stay in control of your own progress, which is so important. And, I'm hoping that over time, again, you feel safe and supported here in this space. And because we are trying to focus on genuine strategies that are built around you, which is obviously the most important thing. So, there's some good sides and there's some downsides to trying to solve problems by yourself. And when you're completely alone, I'm talking about when you don't take any support at all. There is particular downsides to that. But there's also some hard truths about doing it yourself with the help of others as well. So, and when I say hard truths, I mean positive and negative things, but mainly positive things when I talk about those hard truths. When you're looking at problems themselves, the downsides really of trying to do it all by yourself is that you can feel overwhelmed by it, especially if there's lots of stuff going on all at once. And, that alone can bring on feelings of anxiety and obviously stress related, not just physical problems, mental problems as well, which is kind of, it's all impacting on your mental health, your physical health, and how you function as well, your functional, I guess, health. And that's what happens when you feel overwhelmed. And, when you are trying to solve problems all by yourself, you can feel very isolated, especially like if it's issues around family and stuff like that, where you don't have family that you can turn to readily because you may not have spoken for years, and or people moved away and it got easier not to ring, or for whatever reason, you might feel isolated when you're trying to do stuff all by yourself. And I particularly felt like that when I lost both my parents when they both passed away. I kind of felt very alone in that respect, because it was always nice to have the support of the parents for me, so and moving to another country for me, I felt very isolated, particularly after I got divorced as well. And then I was trying to make a new life for myself. So, you tend to feel very alone at that point. So sometimes it can feel very isolating trying to solve problems, and you kind of miss out on the perspective of other people around you, and support. And that makes it feel twice as hard anyway. So with only your own viewpoint, you run that risk of overlooking solutions that otherwise you may have thought about if there was people bouncing ideas off of you as well. So, when you've got your own viewpoint and you're feeling quite negative about things, you're only going to look for the negative things around you. And, it's a bit like that system, where, I don't know, you want to buy a new car, or you want to paint a wall red, or whatever it might be. And then when you start looking around, you end up seeing the same car everywhere, or you see people with the same red wall, and you think, oh, there was an original idea and now everybody's doing it. It's kind of like that when you're feeling and thinking in a negative manner. You won't look for positive solutions. You'll just see negative problems that are impacting on you even more. and that's what happens. When you do have that pressure of handling everything yourself. You feel like you're juggling 10 kilo kettlebells. It's really difficult. It's heavy work, and it's and you're trying to juggle it all, and you're trying to stay at work, or you're trying to save for a holiday, or you're trying to move house, or you're trying to raise a child, or you're trying to hold a marriage together, and you're juggling everything, and when you are trying to work it all out for yourself, it can be hard. So it's easy to make mistakes as well, isn't it? Without any feedback or guidance when it comes to things like that as well. So, and when we do make mistakes, sometimes it impacts even further, and you think, oh my word, I can't do anything right. So, if you're the one that's constantly the one solving problems, it's really, really easy to burn out, isn't it? And burnout will sneak up on you, and you'll start feeling exhausted. You won't want to get up in the morning. You won't want to eat. You won't want to go out. You just want to say cocoon under the doona. And that does happen. Believe me, that does happen. So if you are going to go it alone, it means you're going to miss out on all that emotional support and encouragement, which sometimes is really crucial at those times you feel tough. Having someone coming around saying, "Come on, mate, we're going out," or come on, let's sort this out and we'll do it together. It's so nice to have somebody there that can support you when it gets tough, and otherwise you just end up hitting more and more roadblocks, don't you? And then you start doubting yourself, and then you can't feel confident. It shakes you up a little bit, and you're trying to build a house on sand, and it's going to be no foundation to hold your house up, is it? And you're going to miss out on those creative solutions that come with working with others as well. So without someone holding you accountable, right? Without somebody being there to say to you, "Come on, mate, you said you were going to do this, you said you were going to do that, let's do this together." It's really tempting to procrastinate and then avoid the situation altogether. Stick your head in the sand again. And that's when problems start to pile up, don't they? Because, we end up thinking that we can't handle even the smallest things, and we do even harder things to avoid doing the smallest things. So, that's just our human nature. That's how we work. So, taking charge of your own problem, it is empowering, and it can build confidence and self-esteem. But so when you're taking care of your own problems, when you're taking charge of it and you're taking responsibility, that's where, you're talking to other people. You can feel confident about that. You can feel like, you're not, as I might have called myself in the past, a bit of a loser. You kind of, your self-esteem starts to build, and you think you can take on the world. And, and as you learn and grow from every problem that you tackle, you start to realise that you're picking up new skills along the way, things that you perhaps wouldn't consider you before, because you didn't know you could do them. You now know that you can, and you think, oh wow, geez, I can make a list. I can plan my shopping. I can work out how to get to work if I haven't got my car on the road. You find that you learned all these quite resilient new skills, and sometimes it takes an obstacle like that to force you into the situation to do it, and with other people helping you and supporting you as well, you'll find that those skills will just get more and more and more. And also, when you are trying to do things by yourself, or you're getting some help from a group, it's kind of more easier to be a bit more patient with yourself, and you can start to see that you're not the only you're not the only person that has a problem of a similar nature. You might find that there's quite a few people, so you can sort of say, well, hang on a second, I am trying to work this out. I am actually putting in the work. I can be a bit patient about this. I don't have to expect to do everything all at once. But even when you do eventually solve problems, and you do become more independent away from needing people to help you with shopping or help you to get to work or help you to study more or help you to clean your house, whatever. You realise that you can do things by yourself. You start to feel rewarded by that, don't you? So you are bound to make mistakes. The mistakes will occur, but again, every one of those mistakes is a learning opportunity. And it's okay. It's okay to ask for help. A fresh perspective is exactly what you need sometimes. And someone that's not emotionally attached to you the way you feel about things can sometimes see things a lot clearer. Stress and anxiety will cloud those thought processes. It will make you think. It will make you doubt yourself. So having somebody else there that isn't feeling that way is really good. So sometimes it's okay to ask. Let's put it this way. If your best friend came up and asked you for some help, are you going to say no? No, I didn't think so. Of course you're not going to say no. Of course you're going to help them. So why would you deny your friend the opportunity to help you? It's kind of like, sometimes people need to help other people to feel better about themselves as well. So you're actually doing someone a favour. So the more problems you start to face and overcome, the more resilient you'll be. And that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? If you were to, let's put it this way, let's put it on the opposite side of the scale. Let's just say somebody told you a joke and it was really, really funny. The first time you heard it, it would be really, really funny. Yeah. You would be laughing and rolling over and you think, I'm going to be sick. I'm laughing so much, I can't stop laughing. If they told you that joke for another 20 times, probably about the 20th time, you're going to think, this isn't funny at all anymore. This is just like a normal conversation. And that's the same with a problem. When you first face a problem, say for instance, I don't know, let's just say for instance you got a parking fine and you couldn't pay all at once, because they're quite expensive parking fines, aren't they? You might have a parking fine for like $470. And when the first time you get it, you think, geez, I haven't got $470. I've got to pay my rent, I've got to get my food. And then you find out that you can do it in like a payment structure. Yeah. And you say, okay, well, I can afford $60 a week, whatever, $60 a fortnight. And then you know that if you ever get a parking fine again, you won't go, oh my God, I can't pay this bill. Look at it, it's $500, whatever. You can go, oh, I know what I can do. I can go and ring that person and get it on a payment plan, and then it isn't going to be so harsh. God, I need to watch where I'm parking. It's my own fault. You're taking responsibility. You're repeating the problem maybe, but you've actually worked out on the first time it was a lot easier the second time, and that's how it works. That's how solving problems. That's how they work. That's how you become more resilient. The more that you've got to solve, the better you feel. And remember what I said to you before. You might get A, B, C to a problem, okay? And if you can get to D, the problem's solved. But once you get to D and the problem's solved, there'll always be another problem. Remember that. Just because you work out one thing, it doesn't mean you're never going to experience it again. But next time you experience it, it might be a little bit easier. So, and also when you're setting problems for yourself, in the sense of, you're trying to overcome problems yourself in a group, whatever it might be, with a little bit of advice, you can learn to pace things out. You don't have to solve everything today. There are things that you could prioritize. If you've got numerous problems, you could start to put those problems in order of most urgent, not so urgent, need to sort these ones out, and then you're not being overwhelmed by it. You're pacing it your way, managing your time and your energy that works for you, okay? And you're still moving forward. So taking full responsibility for your actions is really going to lead to some real personal growth, and I'm not talking about making you feel better. I'm talking about personal growth of yourself, how you view the world, how you see things. And remember that this is a lifelong process, okay? It's like I said to you, there'll always be new challenges, there'll always be one, and there'll always be a chance to get better at it. So you can either look at these problems as obstacles that stop you from getting from A to B, or you can look at them as challenges and growth. And I think if it was me thinking, okay, well, there isn't a God, there isn't There isn't a universe creator and stuff like that. We're all just spinning around on this coil, and it's for no particular reason. You think, what's the point? We're all going to just fly off anyway. But if we kind of think, okay, these are all challenges and tests for us to overcome, it kind of puts a different spin on it and kind of makes it worthwhile. Now, I don't know what you really think about that, but I just wanted to touch on those potential downsides of solving problems by yourself, but then some hard truths about doing it yourself as well. So you've got these two different ends of the spectrum, and it's how you think about these things and how you perceive them. If you're going to perceive everything as a problem, that's all you're going to see is problems. But if you're going to see obstacles as chances to move forward, you look at that as challenges to actually move forward. So it can work both ways for you, but it all depends which way you actually look at it. So have a little think about those ones today. And hopefully at some point we'll be able to involve some other people in our conversations apart from me just talking away. So the next time we meet, we're going to be talking about traditional psychiatry and the good and the bad around that, and we're also going to be looking at what counts as a severe mental health condition as well. These are all things that we should be thinking about. Anyway, so I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining me for episode 2. I've had a blast. I love talking about this stuff, and I feel very excited that people are going to start even just rethinking how they think about things and perceive things, and realise that actually I don't need to put myself in the mental health system. I can do this. There are people out there that can support me as well if I want it. There are those things. Some of this stuff may not make any sense to you at the moment, and some of it you might be thinking, what a load of old tripe. Give it time for your brain to process actually what's going on. So and then you can start to think about moving forward. Okay. So remember, if you can, subscribe to this channel. You'll get updates and that of when there's going to be when there's a new episode being launched. Hopefully we can do this every day. I hope we eventually build up an audience and get some feedback. That'll be absolutely fantastic. But until then, I'll speak to you again. Bye for now. No nonsense.